Mr. Valucas's report describes warnings of accidents that GM was aware of involving their, but some of these warnings and reports were not publicly disclosed or acted on. Do any of you disagree that if the public knew about these reports of cars stalling on their own at the time, it is possible that some of the deaths and injuries caused by this defect could have been avoided? Does anyone disagree with that?
No.
Let the record reflect that. In 2007, NHTSA asked for and received a document from GM related to the death of 2 Wisconsin teenagers. That document was first made public by me at our May 7th hearing, and it is referenced repeatedly in Mr. Valucas's report. It included a report by the Wisconsin State Patrol Academy that said that the ignition switch defect prevented the airbags from deploying. It also found other examples of the same problem happening in other cars and identified a 2005 GM warning to dealers about the issue. In short, if correctly identified, the safety defect at that time. Do any of you disagree that if the public had been told about this document and warned about its conclusions at that time, it is possible that some of the deaths and injuries caused by this defect could have been avoided? Let the record show that none of the witnesses disagreed. In 2006 and 2007, NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, received investigative reports from its contractors related to 2 fatal crashes involving GM Cobalts. Both of these reports described airbags that did not deploy in cars because ignition switches had turned off. Do any of you disagree that if NHTSA had reviewed these reports and informed the public about the safety defect, it is possible that some of the deaths and injuries caused by the defect could have been avoided? Again, let the record make it clear that none of the witnesses disagree. So, Ms. Barra, I have introduced legislation along with Senator Blumenthal that calls for important steps to provide more information to the public sooner. The best way of ensuring that this does not happen again is to ensure that there is transparency in the future. I know that you are working hard to change GM's safety culture, but you can't change other companies. And you can't give me the confidence that NHTSA will take more aggressive action in the future. That is why the bill that we have introduced requiring the public availability of documents automakers receive that first alert them to fatalities that could be attributable to safety defects is so important. We need more information to be publicly disclosed by automakers in the early warning reporting system. I want the public to be able to access this kind of information in time for it to provide real early warnings. Does GM support the legislation?
Senator Markey, first of all, you and I agree completely on the need to make sure we are doing everything we can from a safety perspective. And as I've met with you, and I know my staff has worked closely with your representatives, we support efforts to make the NHTSA website more accessible and useful. We also have suggested that a national VIN database be added and added to the bill. We think that would be very useful to make sure we can quickly get to people when we know that there's a safety defect. We also support efforts to make reports on fatality and early warning data more available to the public, as long as the right provisions are there to protect privacy and to protect confidential information from an overall perspective. And we are more than willing to continue to work with you and your office on any legislation that advances the safety agenda.
I thank you, Ms. Barron. I think that's going to go a long way if that legislation becomes law, and it should, because that's the surest way of ensuring this will not happen again. And I thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank you for your focus on NHTSA as well, because I don't think that we can conclude this entire process until NHTSA is made accountable as well. And I thank you for your
Thank you, Senator Markey. Senator Boxer.
Thank you. Ms. Barra, after months of negotiation, Senator Schumer, McCaskill, and I thank you for your support of the Rachel and Jacqueline